Seating in modern day cars is, well, just mediocre. Seems like every vehicle on the road today has to have a relatively firm seat with almost no padding and barely any room to stretch around. Certainly doesn't make for great driving comfort, especially on long trips, but even around town, seat comfort on many modern cars really just stinks. And in stark contrast to many modern vehicles, seating was actually pretty good on some of the classic cars, with high levels of seat comfort, albeit not much side bolstering to hold you in place when you're going around a corner. However, I for one believe that many would be willing to make that trade-off just to have something that was a little bit more comfortable on one's posterior than what is offered in many modern vehicles. Reflecting on some historical offerings, there are a number of seats in particular that stand out from an overall comfort standpoint. But at least at the top of my list in terms of those available in attainable cars are the high back seats, sometimes called flight bench or twin comfort lounge seats, offered for sale in Ford Motor Company products from the 1971 to 1973 model years. Over this relatively brief time period, Ford Motor Company offered some of the most comfortable seating ever put in vehicles, and they put it across many different cars in their lineup. At the bottom end of the lineup offering these comfortable seats was the Ford LTD Brougham, Ford's top-of-the-line vehicle in 1971 for the Ford division. And it came standard with these so-called high-back bench seats. Not only were the seats comfortable, but they were also cloaked in a wonderful brocade fabric with vinyl on the sides. And if a customer wanted even greater luxury and comfort, they could order a twin comfort lounge seat which divided the bench in two, provided dual armrests, and the package also came with a reclining passenger seat to help co-pilots out on long trips by enabling them to better take a snooze or rest. In addition to these super comfortable seats, LTD Brougham interiors also had a number of other luxurious touches aside from the seats themselves, including wall-to-wall cut pile nylon carpeting, unique door trim panels, front door courtesy lights, and also courtesy lights that were operated by the rear doors when they were opened. Seat stitch patterns for the 1971 and 72 model years were quite similar, but in 1973 Ford went to this pattern, which was slightly different with a big round circular button in the middle. Didn't really matter in terms of seat comfort, just gave the interior a bit different look and feel as other elements changed, including the dash as well as the door panels. However, if a buyer didn't find the LTD Brougham luxurious enough for them, they could also get similar seats in the Marquis and Marquis Broughams offered from Mercury during the 1971 to 73 model years. In addition to significantly different exterior styling, which included hidden headlamps over the LTD's exposed headlamps and a lack of a bird beak grille, the Mercury Marquis and Marquis Broughams for 71 offered unique interiors before Ford would commonize dashboards and a number of other interior features for the 1973 model year. While high-back bench seats were standard in the LTD Brougham, Mercury Marquis Broughams came standard with a lower back bench seat, and one had to opt for the optional twin comfort lounge seat package in order to get the larger backrests. Moreover, while the LTD Brougham split bench option endowed the passenger side seat with a recliner, that was also an optional feature on the Marquis Broughams that a buyer had to pay extra for. The stitch patterns and fabrics on the 1971 and 72 Marquis Broughams were somewhat different than the LTD Brougham offerings, with this kind of crosshatch pattern design that was employed in both model years. It was a very handsome design, one that was well complemented by the rich door panels that employed use of the same cloth from the seats, as well as had a full-width padded armrest. For the 1973 model year, Mercury changed up the seat stitch pattern on the twin comfort lounge seat option, now having more of a box pleat design, and also put some sort of fancy filigreed design in the headrest. The seats were available in cloth as well as vinyl, and while vinyl often has a lower-end connotation, I must say that having owned a number of these Marquis Broughams, this interior option, that the vinyl is super high quality, soft and supple, and almost leather-like in its overall feel. Ford would also change the door panels on the Mercury Marquis for the 1973 model year to still have a full-width padded armrest, but the door panels did have more hard plastic on them, particularly below this armrest padding, and didn't quite look as luxurious as the 71 and 72 models. Nonetheless, the cars in 1973 got full pile carpeting, which was much deeper pile than on the 71 and 2 models. And last but not least, these high-back seats were offered on the 1971 Lincoln Mark III, the only year that they were offered on the Mark III, and they were never offered on the Mark IV, at least in this similar poofy pattern. Mark IVs did have relatively high-back seating, but it wasn't nearly as thickly padded as what was offered in the 71 Mark III. And just like the offerings from the Ford and Mercury division, the seats on these Lincolns also look very inviting and feel just as inviting as they look. It is interesting, however, that these seats were only offered on the Mark III, and the full-size Continental never got an option for high-back seating. Only the lower backrest bench-style seating was available in these large Continentals throughout their lifetime. As the 1973 model year turned into 1974, Ford made the decision to eliminate these twin comfort lounge seats, as Mercury called them, or the high-back bench seats, as Ford called them, and it was a rather unfortunate decision. Ford did still offer a twin comfort lounge seat option. However, the seat backs were now much lower and didn't have the same look to them as they did on these other vehicles. Some speculate that buyers found the integrated headrests and high-back seating was just too intrusive in the overall passenger cabin and precluded drivers from reversing by blocking the field of vision. However, having owned and still owning a number of these vehicles, I really don't think that that's the case. I don't have any issue with that, but I guess some customers apparently did. Another complaint that I've heard is that some women with long hair didn't like it because their hair would snag on the back of the seat, perhaps in part because of the fabrics that were employed. Nonetheless, I personally think that the Fords of this era, from the 1971 to 73 model years, are some of those comfortable cars that you can buy, even by modern standards. They drive absolutely quietly and silently with great ride and overall comfort. The only thing that you can complain about on the Fords of this era, in addition to the typical rust issues of the time, are the carburation, at least for the 4-barrel carburetors, and frequent issues with power window motors that strip out their plastic torque pins, but those can easily be replaced. They're otherwise perfect vehicles for making miles down long stretches of freeway and are highly enjoyable collectible pieces. I hope you enjoyed this special feature on Ford's high-back and twin comfort lounge seats for the 1971 to 73 model years. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care and check out the video thumbnails at bottom left and bottom right for some suggestions for you.